Up to 2% off every quarter. Shop more, save more, and more only at Builder's Paradise. Don't miss out. Start building your rewards today with Value Club at Builder's Paradise, because every bolt, board, and brush brings you closer to bigger, better savings. Terms and conditions apply.
Good evening and welcome to another episode of Talk That Get Results. I'm Webbo Herbert, and as per usual, we're here every Tuesday evening with something that at least we think is of community interest and or of some concern. And if you think that you have something which fits into that category, you'd like to find out how you can be a part of the program, well, why don't you drop us a line? Address it to Let's Talk Program Care Vaughan Radio, P.O. Box 195, Charlestown in Nevis. Or give us a call. Our numbers are 1-869-469-1616 and or 1700. By the way, these numbers you'll use to be a part of this evening's discussion. Thank you all again for joining us. Your voice in the community, Thought That Get Results. With regard to your participation in the show, we encourage you to call in on the numbers 1-869-469-1616 or 1700. Here's a suggestion. You have a question or comment, perhaps you can get a pencil, piece of paper, write it down so that you're well organized, and when you're getting on the show, you take as little time as possible so we can accommodate as many of you as we can. We ask only, first of all, you respect yourselves and then respect others, because we will not accept anything we deem that's not within our broadcast standards, but we encourage you to always be forceful with your point. You can also follow our live video stream of this program on our Facebook page at Vaughan Radio and our YouTube channel, Vaughan Radio. Click subscribe. Thank you all again for joining us. Your voice in the community, Thought That Get Results. Tonight, Deborah Terrell, good evening.
Good evening, Webbo. Good evening to my fellow panelists. It's a rainy evening. Thank you for this opportunity to share my voice on this medium. I say goodnight to my fellow creatives, artists, positive thinkers, creative people who might be doing their best now to be writing a next major film for Nevis, put Nevis on the map. We have a lot of chefs. Somebody might be designing their next meal, designing some way to lift them up. And generally, as creative people, clearing the way to make something new, using minds to imagine and create a new world. Good night.
The Honorable Spencer Brandt, good evening.
Good evening, Webbo, and a very pleasant good evening to my fellow panelists. And let me say an extra special good evening to my dear friend Deborah Terrell, and welcome to what I would call the pressure room. Webbo, I want to first of all thank you for the invitation, and I want to say to your hardworking and wonderful staff here how delighted I am to be here. Once again, let me say good evening to all those who are listening here in the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis, to those who are listening throughout the Caribbean Basin, certainly to those who are in the diaspora, North America, Canada, to those who are listening over the pond in Europe, and of course all the way over to Taiwan, where we have some of our students. Good evening. Webbo, I want to start by first of all offering condolences to the family of Lady Vernita Amory, the wife of our former premier and who was one of the founding members of the Concerned Citizen Movement Party, a party that I am privileged to be a part of. I want to take this opportunity to say to her family how saddened we are to learn of her passing. I believe that all of us would know that she was a very pleasant and wonderful lady. She, I think, would have ensured that the position and the stature of premier and the premiership was held in very high regard. So I want to say to her family, my very deepest condolences, certainly for myself personally and on behalf of my entire family. And of course on behalf of the entire CCM family and the CCM organization to learn of her passing. Webbo, I want to say to the Manners family there in Ramsbury, my very deep condolences as well on the passing of Violet, Bam and the children. Please accept my condolences. Quiet lady, someone who would have, from the time the Charlestown Primary School was constructed, would have provided certain special treats and services for the children there at the Charlestown Primary School, and she would have done it with a sense of grace and much humility. So I want to say to the entire family, please accept my very deep condolences. Webbo, I also want to offer my condolences to young Leticia Gums, a young lady who would have been a part of the Nevis debating team, which just concluded here on the island of Nevis over the weekend, who would have passed suddenly, and I can only begin to imagine, Webbo, the shock and the despair that the entire family is in. I also believe that the entire debating fraternity, all of the organizers, are in a state of dismay and disbelief on the passing of young Leticia Gums. Just this weekend, she would have, been right there, front and center, been engaged in the 54th edition of the Leeward Island debating competition, and her sudden passing must have been a shock to everyone who would have enjoyed that debating competition so wonderfully. So I want to offer my condolences to her family and all of the schools, all of the friends that she would have met this very past weekend, who undoubtedly would have been shocked and saddened to learn of her passing. Webbo, also to the family of Clefrin Shine Daniel, a man who I believe all of us here on the island of Nevis would have come in contact with at some point. Shine was one of those individuals who was what I call a live wire, and he would have brought much joy and much happiness to so many persons. So I want to offer my very deepest condolences to his entire family, and I hope that they can remember him with fond memory. And Webbo, I also want to offer condolences to a very dear friend of mine, Carol Rollins, on the loss of her mom. And I know that Carol is, I hope she don't mind me calling her name and pointing her out or highlighting her. Miss Manners was also almost like an adopted mom to her, so she is basically getting it from two fronts. So I want to say to Carol and the entire family, my deepest condolences on the passing of her mom, Audrey Hughes. I hope that they too can remember their loved one with fond memory. And but to all those other families who would have laid to rest their loved one in the past week or two, I know that the pain and the wound is still deep and still extensive, and I hope that they can remember their loved one as happy and as joyful as I hope that they can. Webbo, I want to say to all those who are celebrating tonight, whether it's a birthday, a wedding anniversary, or some accomplishment, happy birthday. And I hope that they are enjoying the evening. It's a little chilly on the outside, but I hope that they can still enjoy whatever celebration they are celebrating tonight. Webbo, thank you for the invitation, and I am indeed looking forward to tonight's discussion.
The honor, well, maybe I should still say it. The Honorable Roger Fifield, good evening.
Well, good evening, and I want to say a special good evening to my fellow panelists and all those who are listening and viewing via the various medium. We say good night to you, and we are happy that you would have taken time out to join us on this program that is widely listened to every Tuesday night. Webbo, I want to thank you for the invitation yet again also. I want to send some birthday greetings to a few persons, Webbo. Mello Freeman in the Rollins area, Tishel Sutton from the Butlers area. They are celebrating today. I hope that they would have had a wonderful day and the evening would be a much better one. Webbo, on the 19th, that's Thursday coming, Estelle Freeman in the Rollins area, she will be celebrating a birthday. I want to say a special good evening to Estelle and happy birthday in advance, and also happy birthday to Moria. She will be celebrating on Friday. So I want to say happy birthday to those persons. Webbo, I also want to say happy birthday to all those who are celebrating birthdays, anniversaries, whatever special occasion. I hope that you are having a wonderful time. For those who are bereaved, Webbo, those, before I go to the bereaved, those who are sick, those who are shut in, those who are in the hospital, we wish you a speedy recovery. We hope that you will recover the soonest and you will be home with your family and friends if you are hospitalized. Webbo, I too want to extend sympathies to the family of Leticia Gums. I want to say a special good night to her mom, Ruth, right there in the Fotogills area, Fotogills estate area. When I was growing up, we used to call it the Kainty Valley. In that area is just across from me. And I want to say a special good evening to her. I know words may not be able to give you the comfort that you would so richly deserve. But that's the best that we as humans can do, and we're asking you to keep on praying, and of course the Lord would give you the rest. To Kathleen and family of Kathleen again, we sympathize with you. And Webbo, I want to express condolences to a young man that one of my colleagues on St. Kitts who passed away yesterday, Ernest Thomas. We would have trained together some 20 plus years ago. And that one really touched me also, Webbo. And I also want to express condolences to the family of Mrs. Vernie Amry. And we ask that you continue to pray. That's all of us and the families, and ask God for comfort and strength as you go through this most difficult period. Webbo, just before I move on, Webbo, and we get into the heavy lifting, I just want a brief moment just to let persons know that the Jerry and Ursula Fifield Easter Memorial Camp is upcoming on the 2nd of April to the 6th of April. It will be held at the Huggins Bay. That's down Coconut Walk, down New River, right down on the bay. We normally camp in tents. This camp has been going on for a number of years. We've had good participation. We have good, clean, fun, educational activities, and we are expecting Webbo over 100 plus campers this year. Again, we would have already break the 100 mark barrier, I think, on 2 occasions, and this year again we are hoping to have 100 plus campers. So registration is still open. A number of persons would have met me and asked me about camp And if they do not have a tent, if they could come to the camp still. Yes, you can come to the camp if you don't have a tent. What we would do, we would room you, whoever you are sending, your child, with someone. If we are rooming, we would definitely put somebody who is responsible in that tent, and we would have males in one tent and females in one tent. Unless you have your tent and you are a family, of course, you would have your family which could comprise of both males and female. So we are asking God guidance and blessing on our camp, and we are praying and hoping that it would continue to be free of incidents and accidents. And we are encourage persons to sign up, ask for a form, sign up. We are also asking the business community and individuals in the community who are so desirous to give a contribution, to our camp. You can contact myself, you can contact any member of the Fifield, you can contact Charissa Fifield Paris, you can contact my wife Rasmin, Anelta Demis, that's my sister. You could contact anyone basically, and they could give you at least directions how you could sign up and give you more detailed details. So once again, Webbo, I want to thank you for the opportunity to be on this wonderful program, and to say to those who are listening and viewing that this is an interactive program, and as such we are encouraging you to call in, ask questions. You can learn something from us and we can learn something from you. And Webbo, just before I end, I want to say a shout out to Mrs. Nola Liburd. I want to wish you a good evening. I know you usually listen to the program. I hope that you are safe and everything is going good. And also Mr. Trust there in New York, Nola in Canada, and Mr. Trust in New York. Webbo, once again, thank you for this invitation to be on this wonderful program that I look forward to be on every Tuesday night. Thank you, and I hope and wish that tonight's discussion will be a fruitful one. Thank you.
Okay, so what we got?
Webbo, I want to congratulate the Nevis Literary and Debating organizers for the 54th edition of the Leeward Island Debating Competition. I missed one of the evening, Friday evening, the Thursday, Saturday and Sunday, and I thought, Webbo, that the level of discourse amongst the debaters was at a very high standard, and I think that some of the topics that they sought to address are topics of current, and I think, Webbo, that they would have equipped themselves by making the arguments very effectively, both for and against. And I also want, Webbo, to congratulate the organizers, because I think to coordinate such an event amongst our young people, making the necessary arrangement for hotel accommodation, transportation, in and out, I thought that they did an exceptional job. I want to also tip my hat to my colleague minister, the Honorable Troy Liburd, who is the Minister of Education, under whose auspices this competition was held. I felt that his leadership, along with his entire team, was able to make sure that Nevis did an exceptional job. I want to congratulate Antigua for also winning the debate. I would have hoped that Nevis would have won, but that was not the case. Nevis came second. But I want to congratulate Antigua. I thought that they did an exceptional job in capturing the championships for this year. But all in all, Webbo, I thought that the various evenings were well organized, well coordinated. I thought that the hosts did an exceptional job in terms of ensuring that the various sessions were kept on track, and the interaction with the public And I'm very happy, Webbo, to see that this is an event that continued to be very interested to our young people and give our young people a conduit, so to speak, to express themselves. I recognize that there was a significant amount of research that went into all of the arguments, and I think that all of the participants, the young sixth formers, would have equipped themselves and done exceptionally well. So I want to congratulate everyone who had anything to do with this competition, the sponsors, the bus drivers, the chaperones, everybody. And I think, Webbo, that it all goes well for our young people. I think also that these kind of events also build lasting friendship. And I think that these young people from the Leeward Islands would also have created that catalyst and that opportunity for friendship that I believe that they can last a lifetime with. So I want to congratulate everyone, Webbo. Like I said, I would have preferred or hoped that Nevis would have won, but from what I saw, I think Antigua was the better team on the night, and I want to say congratulations to them.
Webbo, I too want to chime in and say congratulations to the entire management team that organized the debate that was held over the past weekend. I think that it was an activity of a high standard. I also wanted to congratulate all the teams from Friday night. I think that it was really competitive. St. Kitts coming up against Montserrat coming out victorious. And I think that it was really a good debate. A good competition, sorry. I want to highlight, if I may, young Kijari Huggins. He debated the first night Nevis debated, which I think was Saturday night, and he was announced the best speaker. I want to say kudos to him. I have known him for a while. He was still is in class with my son, and so I would have known him for a while, and I think that he did a really good job. All of the debaters, young Philip, she was the leader on the first night. I want to say kudos to her. I want to say, sometimes those who are in the background to Webbo are not highlighted. Young Miss Warner, she was a part of the squad. Young Miss Barry, she was also part of the squad. On the final night, we had young Thompson. That's young Thompson from right here in Bath. Yeah. And there was a young Fifield that was debating also on the final night. So I want to say congratulations to all of them. From the minister come right down. I think they did a marvelous job. It's just that one team had to win, and I too believe that on the night Antigua was the better of the two teams. Of course, my preference would have been Nevis, but we have to give Jack its jacket, and I really thought that Antigua won the debate. But as I said, I like to say that there could only be one champion, but all the islands, all the teams are winners in their own right. So I just want to say kudos again to everybody who was a part of it.
That sounds wonderful. Sounds like we have a nice crop of leaders and independent thinkers to come.
Yes, Webbo, sorry. There was I think it might have been a news item that one of the Caribbean countries, the school children, are quite a substantial amount, a percentage of the school children, are going unfed. That's me paraphrasing, unfed. And I want to believe that in this time, this year 2006
is 26.
2026. What I said?
2006.
Well, you see, well, maybe because, it's so amazing that I went back 20 years, but I would have to go back, much more than 20 years. When we were growing up, for instance, I know many times we had to eat, dry potatoes, and without relish. And maybe the youngsters don't know what dried potatoes are what we refer to as dried potatoes, but you basically wash the potatoes, you put them in a pot, you put a piece of cloth over the pot, or some leaves, grape leaves or something, and you cook them, and oh, how delicious they are. And basically you had that for breakfast, lunch and dinner for as many times. And sometimes you just come home, drink a little water, and you run back to school. If mango seasoning, then you eat a mango, you eat a tangerine or shaddock. Because shaddock, I'm not seeing shaddock now, not seeing tangerine now, but those were our snacks. We never had any snacks in plastic bags and wrappers and stuff like that. Those were our snack. And to hear, I thought that we would have, really come a long way, not just as a federation, but as a Caribbean people, and to hear that other persons in the region, are going without lunch, and such a substantial, percentage. I believe that it leaves a lot, to be desired, and we really have to start to look at, the root, what is causing this, when we are boasting that we have come so far. What is really happening to us? What is really happening? Is it because of single parenting? Is it because of job shortages? Unemployment level? What it is exactly? We have to do some really investigation, so to speak, into it, and see what can we come up with.
Can I ask a question? You alluded to having grape leaves, for instance, to put over the pot. It's the resources, the food distribution, the maybe the very nature of the crops that we're growing. Maybe I think a lot of what was growing. You said we don't have tangerines. We're not seeing tangerines here in Nevis anymore. There were different decisions made, to that would have cancelled certain crops. Maybe it's migration cause us not to have as many of the crops that you had as a child, and we don't have them now. I think the whole point of what you're talking about is really about resources and moving resources from one person or one area to another. I mean, Caribbean countries, for instance, that went into banana production, did they hold back on the production of other things? Are we now more dependent on food coming in, and therefore rising the cost of food itself to each family?
Most definitely, I would say that we are heavily dependent on the tropicals and the other boats that come ashore, so to speak, every week. And if we really, really look at it, even if you are not in the shipping sector, so to speak, when you look around and you recognize that tropical, for instance, usually comes on a Tuesday, the market shelves would probably be packed on a Wednesday. But you go to the bigger supermarkets and say maybe a Tuesday morning, a Tuesday afternoon, look at the shelves.
Empty.
And you would understand what I'm saying. And, and as we look at it in a broader sense, a broader light, what is going on with oil prices and stuff like that, and everything is basically would rise because of the increase in oil on the world market, then we have to ask ourselves, what can we do to sustain ourselves? Food security, we have to start speak more. I know we have been speaking a whole lot about food security, but what are we doing? Are we making the effort to
Well-
really sustain ourselves? Do we have the necessary lands available? Do we understand the crop rotation, for example? You know, how we plant, when we plant a particular crop, you know, what should we plant after? For example, there's some crops that, you know, would give nitrates and stuff like that, put nitrates into the ground, and there are certain crops that, you know, would relish, so to speak, nitrates. So we do this rotation cycle. I want to believe that the experts at the agriculture department, they know this, but has this been passed on to our farmers? I'm not sure. And if that has been passed on to our farmers, what is happening? Sometimes I know that we speak to maybe storage. We don't want to overproduce, so to speak, and then we don't get the necessary market, and you know, then a lot of stuff spoil because of lack of storage. So that's another consideration.
Production, storage, but I also think we're lacking in the actual farmers, and the knowledge in the farmers. I think that's where a lot of it has started for the Caribbean. I don't know.
I didn't pick up on the news item, Roger, that you raised regarding school children going hungry in a neighboring Caribbean country. I didn't pick that one up. I want to say this, that here on the island of Nevis, our primary school basically offers a school meals program throughout all of our primary school. I believe that preschool, all of those schools also provide some opportunity for those children to get a meal during the course of the day. So, like I said, I didn't pick up on that story, and it would be interesting to know perhaps what percentage of those children may find themselves in that situation. I think that while we try to give our children what I would call a good education in primary and secondary school, I think that if they are in a state of if they are hungry, really, they just won't be able to focus.
That's true.
You spoke about potato. You're happy that you had potato. No. But you also pivot off into agriculture, and you spoke about tangerine and those citrus fruits. I believe it was one of those, and I stand to be corrected, where we had a hurricane here that literally wiped out all of those citrus crops.
Hugo.
I can't remember which one it was.
Hugo 89.
Might have been Hugo, but and for some reason that plant have not seemed to be able to flourish by any great extent again here on the island of Nevis after that hurricane. We have also had the situation with our coconut palms being devastated by again, and we are now seeing a re-emergence, so to speak, of our coconut palms, where that is probably one of the most hot-selling ticket item here on the island of Nevis. You can't get enough coconut water, you can't get enough jellies and so on. So it shows that there is a market and a demand for it. You spoke about agriculture, and I am aware that there are a number of extension officers that provide the necessary advice and guidance to the various farmers throughout the length and breadth of Nevis. And in terms of storage, I'm aware that the government would have constructed the I think it's the Lawinston, I hope I'm getting his name correctly, the Lawinston storage facility there in Prospect, where it provides an opportunity for the farmers to produce their crops, sell them to the agriculture depot, and they have the necessary storage facility for them. That has always been a concern for farmers. Can they produce at a particular level, and will the crop be able to survive without proper storage? The government would have taken the initiative to provide some additional storage for them. So I think that there are opportunities for farmers for finding a market. A number of supermarkets that are always in need of fresh produce. A number of restaurants around the island that are always in need of fresh produce. And I think that there are even also opportunities for export to your neighboring islands. We have boats go to St. Martin, Sabre, Anguilla, regular enough, so that creates some opportunity as well. But I think that while we talk about agriculture, I believe that the concept of agriculture have now changed significantly. The long days of being in the field, in the hot sun and so on and so forth, that is now, in my mind, a thing of the past. Yes, there are certain crops that still need a significant amount of land, but a lot of farming is now being done in these shade houses and controlled temperature environment, and where you have this quick return on products and so on and so forth. So the whole science and the new way of farming now have significantly changed. There are some young talented farmers that are bringing a lot of wonderful produce to the market on a weekly basis. They are more nutritious. We know exactly what's in them. We are not certain as to what is in those that are being imported. So I would certainly encourage our people to buy local, eat local, support local as much as they possibly can where they are available. But farming, I think there are huge opportunities. The market continue to expand when it comes to farmers having a market for their produce. We have Four Seasons, all of the other hotels around Mount Nevis, Wally. They would be more than happy to take any pound of fresh produce that they can get off of our farmers. And like I said, we have quite a number of restaurants around that are always looking for something that is fresh and direct from the various farms and from the various fields here on the island of Nevis. So I want to say to our farmers, do not let some of these opportunities pass away.
What I want to probably ask, maybe one of the panelists could probably answer, maybe someone who is listening. What I find over the years is that we have farmers in Nevis, and you would find that a high percentage of these farmers would, for example, plant and harvest watermelon around the same time. And then you would find that a certain period, a certain time within the year, there is no watermelon. So I am wondering, if it is the mindset of the farmers, look, you're planting melon, I'm going to plant melon too. You're planting cabbage, I'm going to plant cabbage too. Why can't you plant melon, I plant cabbage, you plant peppers, and stuff like that. So we have, a more diverse crops on the market when it comes to harvest and marketing, instead of maybe all 10 farmers of us on island, just using this hypothetically, just producing melons or cabbage at this particular point in time. I also want to point out two other things too, that I know in the past, I'm not sure if it still happens, but for instance, I know the government used to plant, or the government workers used to plant lots of onions, and other farmers as well. And when there's a glut on the market, there would be no importation. There would be a ban on the importation of onions. I know that. And I'm not sure if it is happening. And if it is not happening, is it because we consume more onions now, or is it that we don't plant enough onions anymore.
I think
And-
you're still talking about distribution. We're still talking that the problem with the food problem we're having now is getting the right foods in the right places at the right time, right? So supermarket shelves being empty until that tropical thing gets cleared, even though we have farmers who are producing, right? Maybe it's more lucrative for them to sell directly to the hotels and restaurants, and rather than to the supermarket, right? So the supermarkets don't
Then-
have the crops there, the products.
Okay, fine. So we speak. You speak of that. So then maybe what they probably need to do is to expand and increase, so that they would have enough to sell to the hotels and to sell to the supermarkets. Maybe that is what, and that is why I asked first: is it a problem, with lands to farm? Brand would have said they're going more into shade houses and stuff now. So I don't know. So what I'm saying, maybe we need to really look at it and to find the root of it, what it is. You would have mentioned, Ms. Tyrrell, that is it a possibility that we don't have enough farmers? These are real concerns, real questions that need to be answered, and we have to look at it in a holistic way and to come up with answers. Because as I said, if these boats were to stay out in the waters for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, then we have to
Or
ask
if they
ourselves.
have no oil to operate to come in.
So,
Well, what I would say, Roger, is that yes,
just before I'm sorry, Brad. Just before I move on to, you spoke about the number of coconut trees we had back then, and I want to say especially to the younger ones, they may not know this, but we once used to export coconut palms to Dominica. And when we look at Dominica now, and then of course we had the hurricane 89, a lot of coconut palms were destroyed by that hurricane, and then the yellow leafing, would have destroyed a number of coconut palms on island. And we were actually importing coconut from Dominica. I think we still do, but I think it was just earlier this week or late last week I heard on the news that there's no, I don't want to call it an outbreak, but there's now some yellow leafing in Dominica that is actually destroying some of their coconut palms. I think, I can't remember the exact location, but I think they now designate that particular location as a red zone, meaning you cannot take any palms from that area and stuff like that. So, I just wanted to kind of to interject that.
Roger, you said we used to export coconut palm, but we also used to export cocoa.
Of course, yes.
That is used in the oil and
Yes.
soap industry and so on and so forth. So we have that tradition of export. You spoke about, I believe it was a number of farmers having or planting the same crop at the same time throughout the year. I am certain that the Ministry of Agriculture would often give advice to farmers as to what time of the year to plant certain crops. And you are correct. Sometimes there are a lot of watermelons on the market, and other times of the year there are absolutely none. What that is also saying is that there are certain months of the year that may be the best time of the year to plant certain crops. And while you may have 3 or 4 or 5, 6 different farmers planting the same crop, it goes back again to whether or not all that is produced can be consumed. Sometimes because you have, as you put it, the glut on the market, the price may go down a bit. So I think that a lot of the farmers who often ply their trade, they would, from what I've seen and what I know, continue to do what they can do in terms of bringing their crops to market. I know oftentimes the Ministry of Agriculture offer certain level of assistance, plowing of their fields, taking their various produce at the marketing unit and try and get them distributed in the various supermarkets and hotels, as the case may be. So that opportunity and that conduit still exists, and I would always say that the farmers who are still in the business can always take advantage of those opportunities.
I still say we have a distribution problem, and we also cannot speak of providing food, distributing food without talking about the monkey problem. Right? The other day, where I usually buy my veggies, we had watermelons, and looked at the watermelons, and they were pale. And it's because the farmer felt that he had to pick them. I guess he was losing it.
Picked too soon.
Yeah, he picked too soon, but he was also challenged and losing his crop. Yeah, you know, so 6 of one, half a dozen of the other.
You know, there's a real issue, and I know we would have spoke about this topic a few times on this program, the monkey problem. And it is really a problem. I know, for instance, in our backyard, my wife has a little garden, and there's a guava tree, and some camellia was over the guava tree, and he had lots of guavas. And my son made the mistake, thought he was doing something good. He went and he took off the big bush, the camellia, off of the guava tree, and then the next day, no guava there. The monkeys went to the other guavas. I mean, it sounds laughable, but it's true, you know.
He exposed what you had.
Oh boy.
He didn't realize there were prying eyes. But yeah, we have organizations that say we can't cull the monkey population. I don't know, Mr. Brand, maybe you could speak a little bit to that.
We continue to get organization that. But I think oftentimes you have to try and balance. I know that the Ministry of Agriculture had a program where they offer, I think, a certain time of the year, certain payments for, I think, every monkey tail that is produced. Mm-hmm. I know that the late Sterling Marshall was one of those who was prolific in that. It is a problem, and I think that for us to really perhaps advance our farming to the level and to the extent and to the magnitude that I think that we can, that is an issue that I feel would have to be. Sometimes you try to implement certain policies and initiatives to try and deal with that issue, and all of a sudden you get it. But it is a problem for the farmers. I mean, even where I live up there in Marion Heights, I had some bananas up there, and as Deborah said, you pick them, you pick them a little early to make sure that you get some off of them. But the farmers continue to face certain challenges, and that is, of course, one of them that they continue to face. It is something that they continue to wrestle with, and the Ministry of Agriculture continue to wrestle with. They try to offer certain incentive, like I said, for persons to eliminate them periodically.
But Brand, is that program still ongoing? I want to believe, I think I heard that it might have come to a close.
I believe it is still going certain times of the year. It is not necessarily an all year round program.
Is that the only program we have to deal with monkeys?
To the best of my knowledge at this time, and I stand to be corrected from the Ministry of Agriculture.
Well, it would have been nice if we could have at least, hear what the agriculturalists and the farmers, have to say, because I know for a fact that they do listen this program. But back to you, what you would have said, Ms. Tyrrell, in terms of distribution. Any any ideas, any suggestion?
The food problem is worldwide. Growing the crop is one side of it. Another side is waste, right? And you have in other parts of the world, you have people who will go and collect what might be considered food waste, and or have food banks where people can go and get meals. Mr. Brand pointed out that there is a school feeding program in Nevis. Food all over the world, it's a basic need, and there's enough for everybody, but somehow we can't seem to get what there is, or enough of what there is distributed around it.
Okay. I know if we were to generalize it and, you know, look globally, worldwide, you know, it could be challenging. But Nevis is 36 square miles, you know, 15,000 people. Can't a study be done in terms of what we consume, how much of what we consume, and around what time of year we consume what we consume?
That data is somewhere available. I am almost certain that we know exactly what we import annually.
We would know that, of course. But I'm talking about what we actually. I mean, maybe that those stats could probably, you know, link to what we consume, how much we consume in a particular time frame, and then we would know, and then we could probably look back and say, well, you know, we would want X amount of poundage of potatoes, you know, within this particular time frame to sustain 10,000 people, 15,000 people. And
are you talking about?
I'm talking about food security.
Right, but Mr. Brown is saying that the data is available. Is that on imports that you're saying the data is available?
The data is available in terms of two things. Well, three things. One, what is being produced here on the island throughout the year. Two, the consumption. And I'm going to give you an example of eggs. Nevis is basically self-sufficient when it comes to eggs. I think maybe up to about 11 months of the year. When you get down into December, where you have a lot more people doing a lot more baking, a lot more stuff, and so the demand goes up. So that is the only time of the year where the government really allows the importation of eggs. You have that other data in terms of meat kind, pork, mutton, what is being produced, what is being consumed, and what is being imported. So, and that's why I said earlier that there are opportunities. I remember the former Minister of Agriculture here, the Honorable Alexis Jeffers, in one of his budget presentation, I think it was, when he basically made the argument that you can get a pound of pork out of, I believe it was Brazil or one of those places in South America, cheaper, landed in the supermarket cheaper than what's being produced here on the island of Nevis. Now, we look at that and we ask why.
This is coming out of where?
I think it was Brazil. I believe it was Brazil, is it?
But even if it's not specific to Brazil, coming from overseas.
South America, right. And again, I believe that when he made the argument, that he was making the point that there were the opportunity for farmers who were involved in the business of producing pork, that they can do whatever they needed to do to try and ramp up their production. I have seen some folks have animals, and animals look nice, but they're not selling.
It's true.
So I think that while Deborah spoke about the distribution and the demand, I've always believed that there is the demand side that creates the opportunity for farmers to do a bit more. And I think that yes, they have some challenges. They have dogs and so on that go after the animals. This is a concern and a problem for some farmers. We go back to crops. We talk about monkeys, but I think that the demand for food, not only here in Nevis, throughout the world, the Ukraine-Russia war also created a different set of. I believe Ukraine is one of the world's largest wheat producers, and that war would have created some challenges as well for certain types of food on the market. We are now seeing a war taking place in the Middle East, so to speak, that is now pushing up the price for fuel. That is also going to increase the cost of food production, not only here in Nevis, but also throughout the entire world, because it now becomes more expensive for every bit of machinery to continue to work. And all of those are challenges that we do not necessarily have control over. And I think that while we can suggest to our farmers to try and do a bit more, and while the government may be willing to offer more assistance, there are just some external factors that we just do not have control over. You spoke about go back to Deborah in distribution. Getting the food to us, coming to us over the next few weeks and months, absolutely is going to be more expensive because of the price of fuel.
Let me talk about fishing. Are we overfished? Is our seas overfished?
I think the jury is still out on that. I think one of the challenges that we are facing in terms of our fishing sector is global warming. The waters are now becoming a bit more warmer. The fishermen now have to go further out and deeper waters and so on and so forth. There is a lot more contaminant in our waters, all these plastics and so on. All of those are creating some challenges for our fishing folks and the replenishing of our fish stocks. Coral reefs, some are facing, because of the global warming and the warmer water, some of the coral reefs are dying. So a lot of the fishes are not getting to the point of having access to those coral reefs. That again is another challenge and issue for fishing folk. It is becoming even more and more difficult for fishermen now to ply their trade. I have looked at the fishing sector, and I know we have a tradition of leaving the shores early in the morning, go on out, spend a few hours and come back by midday, 1 o'clock, early afternoon and so on. Perhaps that's an area where fishermen and perhaps the government may have to give some assistance with that as well, to get these larger fishing trawlers where they can spend 2 or 3 days out at sea rather than having to go so far and come back in a day. I think that would give them some additional hours out at sea plying their trade to so that is something that I think that can be looked at, and that is something that I feel I'm sure that would get the attention, of course, of the fishermen.
I have a story that fits into what you just said. I'll put it on the table now, and then we could do with it what you will. This is a story. It's a fable. I cannot. I don't know how it originated or who wrote it, so I cannot give any credit. But it's an old story. It's a story of a Harvard MBA graduate and a fisherman. Do you know the story? Once upon a time, a powerful executive took a vacation to a coastal village. It was his first vacation in 15 years. There he saw a fisherman catching fish. The fisherman fished for a little while, picked up his bucket to leave. The executive stopped him and said, "Why don't you stay longer and maybe fish longer?" The fisherman replied, "I have enough, and I would rather spend time with my family, sip some wine, play my guitar with my friends, and then put my kids to bed." The executive was shocked by this response, and he said, I'm a business graduate and I can help you make more money. If you spend more time fishing, you can buy a bigger boat, then have a fleet of boats. You could move to a big city, then another city. And as your business grows, you could become a very rich fisherman. The fisherman said, well, how long would that take? The executive said, 15 to 20 years. And the fisherman said, and then what? Well, the executive said, you can sell your company for a lot of money, retire, and move your family to a coastal village, sip some wine in the evening, play your guitar, and spend time with your wife. The fisherman said, but isn't that what I'm doing now? So maybe our problem may not be distribution, it may be lifestyle choices. Right? You know, we don't want, our fishermen maybe don't want the big trawlers and, you know, to spend so much time away from family by going out and fishing longer.
Maybe not.
It's maybe it's life choices. What you did, the pathway that you want to take for your particular life. I'm saying this to say, when we look around, even here in Nevis, we went to school with certain persons. We know certain persons in school, quote unquote, were bright, went to university, probably spend, maybe would have worked, let's say they worked for 2-3 years, went to university, spent 5-6 years, maybe 8, depends on what they went to do. And then they come back, maybe work for another 2 years, and let's say they study medicine, and they probably want to go back and specialize. So they gone back, and then when you look now, you know, hey, they are 30-35 years, they ain't have a family yet, they ain't probably get land yet or a house, and by the time they probably get maybe a land, house, a family, they're probably 40-45. And then you may find somebody who was not bright, so to speak, you know, probably maybe going into the same fishing industry or construction, and they become a good construction worker, they become a builder, and sorry, they are now making quote unquote money. They never went to school, they have a family, maybe at age 25, age 30, have a house, you know. So people take different paths, people see things in different lenses, because here's the executive in what you just read. He is now advocating that the guy, you know, to build wealth, and then after you build wealth, you retire and you sip your wine. But this particular fisherman in your story, he's contented, you know, at what he's doing, you know, have a little, live light, live small, enjoy life, so to speak. That is the sense I'm getting out of it. So there are different pathways people would opt to take. I can give you a real story. I was really amazed. Years ago, I met a lady. She came through the airport, and I interviewed her, and she was going to the medical university, University of the Americas, sorry.
Okay. Go ahead.
And she was, of course, going there to study medicine. And I would know, I'd recognize she was 60+ years old. And I said to her, well, you just starting to study medicine, you're going to have another 5-6 years. By the time you finish, you might be 70+. And she said to me, look, I have other degrees, and from a child I always wanted to be a doctor, and I'm going to pursue that. That is my lifelong goal, my lifelong dream, to be a doctor. So even at an advanced stage, an advanced age, 60+, you know, this particular lady, you know, want to pursue her dreams to become a doctor. So people would have different pathways, people have a different way of thinking, people would probably set, certain goals that they would, probably try to attain within a particular time frame. And, we would just probably, do what we have to do the best way that we think for ourselves and perhaps our families.
Indeed. And, it brings us right back to your point, what you started off with about the program in the breakfast program, right? Because it is all of those things combined that lead to a problem of children not having enough to eat when they come to school or while at school, or and is it food distribution? Is it parents not having enough money to provide for the children? Is it parents having 2 and 3 jobs and not being there when the kids are up and getting ready to go to school? Societies are built on all of these kinds of challenges, and I think it is important that basics are met, and sometimes you actually need education, you need communication, you need discussions about these things, about these choices. You need, because people, broadly speaking, I believe, that fisherman said he had enough for himself. I believe there's enough everywhere, right? There's enough for everybody. We get into a place where some people, they don't want a bucket of fish, they want a trawler of fish. Right? And those kinds of things, the lifestyle choices, right? Doing what you have to do to make sure you have that trawler of fish is probably part of the problem, because then instead of you having 10 fishermen getting 10 buckets, you have one man who's overfishing. He's sending out deep trawlers so that the small fisherman can't get no fish. Right? So instead of it being evenly distributed, you now have it concentrated for somebody to decide how it gets distributed. I don't know.
And that one man having control over how it's being distributed is what is creating a lot of conflict and globally.
Yep.
Because that level of influence and power in the hands of a few, while the masses are not being able to get access to
what is needed.
Some of the same bucket of fish that is needed to sustain life and to sustain development. The scenario that you put forward, where the executive and the fisherman, I think that I don't necessarily want to say that it's a part of the distribution issue, but I think that it also can be applied to how individuals are prepared to apply themselves to get from point A to point B. Now, the executives see a particular again, business opportunity where if this professional fisherman were to apply himself differently, he can have a totally different outcome. Doing it for 15 or 20 years, and then he can, with his family, sit on the coast and sip his wine. Fisherman is not thinking that way. He is thinking that he have enough for today. He can come back next week or come back tomorrow and do it all over again. But I think it's just basically how individuals seek to apply themselves to get from point A to point B.
So, life is really a balance, How do we balance things? And in that same reference to what Ms. Tyrrell would have said. You know, how do you balance? What do you look for? What do you want? If you were to probably buy those big charts and stuff, would you be able to spend quality time with your family? How do you balance?
Let me just take this. Good evening. Thank you for holding.
Let's take into consideration we're heading into a hurricane season, and year after year, the fishermen them arguing and talking about why not build a boat ramp. So, but it's quite expensive to take a boat out of the water and put it back in because you have to keep hiring people. Why can't the government provide a crane or something? They think it's good business for the fishers to keep paying and paying and paying to take the boat in and out of the water, to go to get a job, to come in and next thing here storm, you got to rush to hire people again, you know, to do the same thing. And then the pier for the fishermen. I listened to the gentleman the other evening talking on the show saying that, why don't the fishermen then go meet with the government and find out when tourists boat in so they could schedule them time to go work? Why don't the government sit down with some TDC, Hartford, some local business and try to get some low prices on lumber and we do the pier for the fishermen? Thank you very much.
Yes, Webbo. Yes, I appreciate the call, and I still believe that the caller and maybe other persons, you know, don't fully understand in what context I said what I said. What I just to not to rehash it, Webbo, but just to simple point out to the caller what I was saying is that if we know that we cannot use the pier, and it is not if now maybe we just cannot use it. So what I am saying, if we know we cannot use it because of international regulations or whatever there is, so we cannot use it as fishermen, I am saying it is only prudent for the fishermen to find out when are the scheduled days for the arrival of these ships, and they work around them until better could be done. It doesn't make any sense, you know, knowing that you cannot use and you're going to be not being prudent and not being trying to find out for yourselves and for your business, you know, when these ships are coming in. So instead of going out this morning, and when you go down, you recognize you cannot go out. You know, you would have know in advance where you cannot go today, but I can go tomorrow. That's all this simple message that I was trying to convey. Now, Webbo, back to what I was saying in terms of balancing. It's how we look at life, how much money we think that we are comfortable with, so to speak. Some persons would probably want to take their age into consideration, their family into consideration. How old am I at this present stage? You know, if we are Bible believing persons and we believe with 2 scores and 10, then, you know, how far are we from that if we were to live to see 70? You know, and if we were to live to see 70, then how much money, so to speak, barring sickness, because we know sickness could just eat up all of our monies one time like that. Barring sickness, how much money we really want to be able to sustain us until that time probably in a comfortable manner. Maybe in that period you probably want to send your children to school and stuff like that. So these are things that persons have to, and how, if I get another job, what do I have to forego? Maybe I have to forego perhaps maybe spending quality time with my family. These are things that persons have to look at and think about, you know, as individuals, as a family, you know, and different persons, different families would probably see things differently and view things differently. And so we cannot probably, you know, have a broad brush for everybody and everything in terms of this. And also, Webbo, in terms of the way we live, and probably we're not feeding our children. The real question is, can we feed our children or can we not feed our children? Sometimes we could, but Are we disciplined enough? That's the question we have to ask ourselves. Why can't I feed my child, but I can buy the latest Nike shoes? I can buy the latest wig. I can comb my hair in the latest style. Sit down for 4, 5, 6 hours and do a hairstyle every month, every other month. The latest, what you call Rouge lipstick, you know, they have MAC, whatever they are called, and they are so expensive. Why can't I go to a function without them for a month? When we have, this is no disrespect, and I hope that the promoters and them not thinking that I'm trying to bash them, but when we have all these these functions, these different functions, social functions, you know, we dress up, we want a new suit. Why can't we wash what we have and make it clean and iron it neatly and wear it? But no, because social media, we have to post on social media. We have to post, and we do not want anyone to see us in the same clothes. But why? Why? Is it a sin? Is it a crime?
I think you're talking broadly about having enough and the concept of what is enough. We have Maslow's needs, right? The hierarchy of needs. When your basic needs are met, then you can go on to the other self-actualizing needs. Maybe people feel that the actualizing needs are more important than the basic needs.
Well, this is what I'm saying. It come back to you as an individual, your ideology.
The choices that you make.
Yes, your choices, and choices as consequences.
But how do people develop that sense of self and that sense of enough? Of enoughness. How do you develop that? You mentioned that you know, at the beginning about when you were kids and what you had and what you had to sustain yourself with, right? I didn't have those same circumstances, but you know, I saw my mom make some tough choices as well. You know, and I think that's perhaps is one of the reasons why I sew my own clothes, right? Because of those choices, because you're choosing one over the other. Maybe you mentioned social media, maybe we're in a society where people don't want to choose. People don't feel that they should have to choose.
And then what's the consequence?
Well, then it becomes greed over need.
And then what happened to your family? Then you leave your family behind. It come back to conditioning of the mind. It come to discipline. Are we disciplined enough?
Maybe we're not.
And that is exactly what I'm saying. Maybe we are indeed not disciplined enough. Who are we trying to please? Sometimes.
So maybe we're the fisherman who is only carrying a small bucket, but he wants the proceeds of the trawler.
Well, perhaps. And sometimes too, we look at our friends, we look at our neighbors. Oh, my neighbor is driving a big car. I want one. My neighbor have a 5-bedroom house. I want one, but I can only afford a 2-bedroom house. So we stretch ourselves to the limit and beyond. Sometimes we have to look at ourselves. What, you know, would be we can live comfortably with.
I think we have these challenges in the world. I think they're the sustainability goals, the SDGs. You know, because of some of this lack of paying attention to our future, to, you know, what's going to happen 5 years from now, what's going to happen, you know, then what? You know, you do so and so and so, then what? People are not asking those questions, right? And feeling inadequate, feeling that you don't have enough, you are not enough, feeling that you are struggling, is part of the problem. And that, I think, is coming out of outlook. It may be coming out of circumstances, but I believe it starts with outlook. It starts with outlook, right? Because if we have enough and we adjust your outlook to that, then you live accordingly. If your outlook is saying, I don't have enough, then all you're going to have is want and more want. You get up every day and, it becomes a bottomless pit. Really and truly bottomless, because if you don't feel you're enough, nothing will fill.
And sometimes that greed leads to criminal activities.
But let me ask you a question. Do you feel that social media is pushing individual, quote unquote, out of character and forcing them to overextend themselves?
No, I believe people are pushing themselves. Because it's people are the ones who are on social media.
So you don't feel that social media is having that impact on them too? I'm basically using the analogy that you gave earlier, where individuals don't necessarily want to be seen in the same thing twice, and they go to these functions. So do you feel that because they are on social media that they feel that they are being forced or pushed?
I think they feel obligated.
I think it's beyond social media. I think it's social media is a part of it, yes. But I think it's what we're seeing coming at us, the messages that are coming at us, and not really being able to discern A from B, right? Assuming that because so and so has that big house or that big car, then one and one makes two. They are happy, or they are better than, right? I think that those are the forces, as opposed to maybe there's some pain underneath why they feel they need to have this drive to have more. Maybe there's a pain that's being covered up, right? But it's easier to see because we're in that society of more and being able to buy and having access, right? You believe that the access to things that you have now makes you a better person than your parents maybe 50 years ago. And so it becomes a drive to be better, to quote unquote better, because better is relative.
I just speak to parents. I believe that parents have a lot to do with it, and I'll tell you why. Oftentimes we say, all these children this and these children that. But when we were growing up, we were the very same thing. But the difference is, our parents pull us in line and make us understand, hey, you sit down there, you do this, you do that. I am the parent, you are the child. But it appears now that we as parents, when the child do the same thing that we used to do, we're now free to pull them up. And we say, if you don't sit there, don't give you an ice cream. And if you're in town, and you say, if you ain't behave, call the police. It's us. Sometimes we have to take the blame. We have to really look back and sit back and do some introspection of ourselves and ask,
Let me just take this. Good evening. Thank you for holding.
Yes, good evening. I'm wondering where the balance lies, whether it's with the individual responsibility or with, shall we say, leadership, right? And I'm not just talking political leadership, leadership throughout the whole strata. Because we are taught to be competitive. We're taught to go after whatever the symbols of success are. And unfortunately, those symbols of success are usually material things, okay? And so really and truly, who can we blame? If, for instance, we try to temper what you call the needs, or not necessarily needs, but desires of people. If, for instance, we said, well, in a small island like this, do we really need a huge car that's going to consume lots of energy, that's going to be expensive to both buy and maintain, when in fact we can suffice on much less, right? And then you start thinking about, well, it's an individual thing. Okay, you cannot tell me what car to go after or not to have a 5-bedroom home. Okay? And so where does the balance come in? Should government, for instance, legislate some of these desires? Don't believe in banning things, but you can quell the need to have them, whether by increased taxes, or you don't ban them outright, but you increase taxes on them, those kinds of things, and then leave the other part to the sociologists and the parenting and so on, to instill in people, from children coming right up, that really and truly we have to do things differently. We have to be more frugal in what we do. Okay, even if it's in our eating habits, it should be just local, as opposed to the kind of lifestyles of the northern countries, the first world countries. Those things we can control, but it's very difficult to get people to adjust once they're in a particular mindset. And so I'm wondering where the balance comes in. Where should it be more on the individual responsibility, or leaders should insist on, as unpalatable as it may be, telling us what is better for us, whether it's in terms of the food choices we make or other choices that we make. I wonder where the balance comes. Okay.
Yeah, Carla, I want to think that it's begin with the leaders, and when I say leaders, who are the first set of leaders? Our first set of leaders, in my opinion, are our mothers and fathers. How do we groom that child? For example, this may not be a very good example, but I'm going to use it nonetheless. For example, a mother have a young child that is breastfed, and we know that a child, this is an example, I'm not using it as factual, but we know that a child should be breastfed every hour, and we just breastfed the child half an hour ago. This child start to cry, and because we want the child to stop crying, we start to breastfeed the child again. So that child, in my opinion, start to develop there, and this thing start to go on. So we want to shut up the child, so to speak. So what we continue to do, we continue to give. We continue to give. So this child grows up, and he understand, why, if I am disgruntled, well, somebody's going to give me something, or somebody ought to give me something. Somebody should give me something to satisfy my disgruntlement, so to speak. And these are things that we have to start to look at when we come into the community now. Our teachers, the mindset of our teachers, how do we really want to teach? I am not saying that our teachers don't want to teach, don't get me wrong, but do we really want to teach? Are we just having this as a job? to collect a paycheck at the end of the month. We come to the broader society now. The child now is working. You come back to leadership also. You go to the bank for a loan. Should you just get a loan because you want a loan? Can you meet the criteria that is stipulated by the bank? Should the bank give you because you say that you can cover? Maybe you really can pay, but what happens? The bank probably would be looking. What happens if this happen? What happens if that happen? You know, based on the percentage that of your income that you'll be paying back to the bank, would you now be able to sustain that over a long period of time, say 5 years, 10 years, as the case may be? So it comes to leadership, in my opinion, in every aspect. Now, if we should legislate, I really don't think so. And it come back to leadership again when you come to the doctor. I want to eat junks knowing that I am diabetic. So the doctor now is my leader in that sense. You know, so the doctor now would give me advice, or should give me advice. Look, keep away from sugary stuff. Keep away from sodas and stuff like that. You know, go on this particular diet. He's leading me. He's directing me. So we have to look at leadership in all forms, sorry. And we are to be able to understand if people in leadership, 99.9% of the times, if they are giving us directives, if they are guiding us, you know, they're guiding us, as I said, 99.9% of the time, they're guiding us for our own good, our benefit.
Mr. Brand, do you have anything to say about this?
I wanted to ask the caller a question before he left, but
The line?
yeah, he indicated that he don't believe in banning things. I was hoping that the caller would have stayed on the line a bit longer, because I wanted to ask him how does he feel about these territories in the Caribbean, and perhaps even globally, where, and I'm gonna put it in the Singis and Nevis context, where we have things, quote unquote, that are coming into the country that are creating harmful and detrimental impact on our people. And if it is that he feels that some of those things are not to be banned, here in St. Kitts and Nevis, we have a high rate of non-communicable diseases, and basically some of it is caused by lifestyle choices, and perhaps some of what we drink, some of what we eat are creating some of those challenges. I was hoping that the caller could have given insight if you feel that the amount of man hours that is being lost because of some of these products, the amount of persons that are perhaps losing a leg because of the challenges that they are facing, the high rate of or let me put it differently, the reduced level of productivity of some of our people when they are affected by. So I was wondering if the caller feel that perhaps if some of those items could be banned for the greater good of some of our people. I would have been curious to know if you would have taken a position.
I'd like to say something with regard to that.
Yes.
Because I think, on the whole, and this goes back to parenting and leadership, and parenting and leadership are kind of on the same level. Policies shape behaviors, they shape your values, and they shape outcomes, right? So if we're not looking at those things in tandem, right, then you're not really seeing the where we're going down the road, right? If it is, now we know about the NCDs, what are the policies that we are implementing either in the home or in the community or on a larger scale at our government level. What are the policies in place? Like, in your home, you have a brother that is diabetic and may not be taking care of himself. What do you think can be done about it? On the other hand, that same brother has a responsibility to himself, right? To what policies he lives with. Right, and that goes along with the whole concept of the broader pictures of what you're buying, what you're spending your money on, right? What are the policies that you have set for yourself? For yourself, not have nothing to do with the neighbor, have nothing to do with the sister, right? Because we come into this world solo. Yes, we need the community around us. We need the people around us. But we talk about elements of success in individuals, in families, in communities. That is personal, right? I remember my grandfather saying these words, and I didn't really know what it meant when I was 8 years old, but he said it a lot. Man, know thyself. Man, know thyself. You have to know, right, where you're going. What are your policies? What are your values? What's the outcomes that you want? And to some extent, be encouraged within society to make the right choices, have the right behaviors, to be able to be moving towards a certain outcome. And, I think right now we have too many cars, Mr. Brand. Right?
You have one?
Of course I have one.
So that's one too much?
No, but I thought of it the other day, like I sold one and bought one. So that means I'm responsible that there are 2 cars on the island, that, me alone, right? The price of oil going up, we've spoken about that, right? But, those things, having too many cars. One of the things that we haven't spoken about that you've touched on is the concept of not being able to delay gratification. What you want it now, and you want it now. Right? I think
those words sound familiar. But I hope I'm not cutting you off.
No, go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, Brian, back to the question that you were directing to the caller. I don't think that we should ban certain quote-unquote products. I believe what probably could be more beneficial probably to the government, is to put on probably higher tariffs on those same products. Yeah. And that could act as a deterrent if I cannot foot the bill. For example, maybe sugary beverages, that it would have a negative effect on you, especially if you have diabetes and stuff like that. So if the tariff was to rise, so to speak, then the cost would go up. And if you really, really, really want that, then you buy it. If you can't buy it, you leave it.
I'm gonna give you a real world example. Cigarettes. For years, people talked about how they were harmful to health. They were harmful to health. They put a message on the cigarette package that this
Surgeon General warning and all kind of things.
They raised the price of it by putting on tariffs. People still bought cigarettes. In the end, what they had to do, right? Make stronger laws about no smoking in certain areas, to actually cut down the consumption.
Cut down the second-hand smoke effect as well.
Yeah, right? Policies drive behaviors, and it affects outcomes. Somebody, that's why some people are there, right? That's what you're supposed to do, to make these decisions in some cases.
Of course.
Right? So tariffs, sure, they work for a while or for some, but you have to actually set the tone. Somebody has to set the tone.
Well, yeah, you have to start at some point in time. You know, and you know, sometimes you are going to a particular destination, and you set out to go from A, B to reach C. And let me rephrase: A, B, C to reach D. And there are times that you would probably have to leave from A, go to C, come to B, and then go to D to reach D. So I'm saying this to say sometimes the path that we pave or we want to chant, you know, sometimes it is not as feasible as we thought, as we predicted. And of course, that would lead to other government intervention, legislation, and what have you. So, you know, it is just, some persons, of course, would agree, and some would disagree, and that is fine. Some person would say, come and put an outright ban on particular products, and then you know, another cross section or subset, you know, would probably say no. You know, I am not a diabetic, for example. I want my Coke, I want my Pepsi, or what have you. So, you know, really and truly, we would never be able to please everybody.
Deborah spoke about that the island have too many cars. I believe that when the used car market became popular, I believe that the legislatures implemented it was a $5,000
on cars for more years.
Tariff.
A tariff. Let's talk about that popular word, tariff, on vehicles over a certain age. And the general sense was that you would have,
it's on all vehicles,
being able, well, the general
different tier.
Yeah, the general sense was that would have create a kind of deterrent for individuals to perhaps purchase vehicles of a what.
But you know, Bran, this is my way of looking at it. Just before this tariff was implemented, before then, persons didn't have phones. You could order a phone. Sorry, you could order a vehicle from your phone. People didn't have laptops and tablets and computers like that.
Yeah, well.
So then they could not have ordered a vehicle. They had to go probably to the dealer or some other person to order a vehicle. Then we went into the phase where persons start to get their own laptops, their own computers, which simply means that they can do their own ordering now. People start to read and to educate themselves, knowing how to do these things. And what people realize is that vehicles on the market out there is a lot cheaper than they really thought they were. So now I can, even with the $5,000 environmental levy that is levied on vehicles that are 4 years and older, you know, you would find that when they do the maths, it is much cheaper than brand.
So you're
car
saying
dealer.
The tariffs are working?
No, it's not that the tariff is not working, you know. It's not, the tariff is not working.
It's not deterring the number of cars that are coming in.
But this is what I'm saying. This is what I'm saying, Mr. Will. People get access to the outer world. Before, people didn't have that access to the outer world. So persons, me and you. Okay, let's look at it this way. Back in the 80s and maybe the early 90s, I had to go to Charlestown to book a flight at some flight agency to travel. To travel. That is what I'm saying, because we have access, and so that fee that you have to pay to the travel agency, you don't have that anymore. The same thing with the importation of vehicles. You can sit in the comfort of your home and order your vehicle.
So let me ask you a question. If it is that we have too many cars on the road, is there what can be done about that?
But the question is what is too much? How much is too much? That is the question, and until we can answer that question, I don't think the argument can advance.
So we have to wait until we have bottleneck traffic to know that it's too much?
Then if we get bottleneck traffic, somebody might say we need more roads.
I agree. So is that a problem of having to provide more roads because we have more cars?
I wouldn't say it's a problem.
And
More roads would mean opening up of virgin territory, so to speak.
And then you were saying?
And then requesting more roads would we be willing to
Pay the cost.
increase the road tax?
Bran, what I have said on this program some time ago, I would have said, if I were in a position, maybe what I would have done is to probably lower the import duty, put a ban on maybe cars that are 20 years old, maybe 15 years old, lower the taxes, so persons now would be ordering newer vehicles. Of course, they would cost more, but the cost to import would be less. So it's almost like it balances off itself. And then, if we do that, right? They remember at the port, you collect your fees one time, because the vehicle could only be imported one time. But you get a vehicle for 10 years, 15 years. You pay wheel tax each year. You probably want to lower the rates to bring it in. You add maybe at $20, $10 to your wheel tax. You multiply that by how many thousand you said? Cars in Nevis?
I don't know.
And then you multiply that.
How much you going to lower the rate by to bring it in?
Well, of course, studies would have to be done, Mr. Herbert.
You're going to lower it by studies?
By the result of the study.
Work with me. Lower it by 20%. Bring it to 20% across the board.
Well, that's
and
a suggestion.
somebody, should take it. If I were campaigning, I'll do that.
Sounds like you had the last word.
Brian should take a hint.
You didn't have the car video.
This program repeats at 10 o'clock tomorrow morning, following the VON News Minute. Join the Honorable Mark Brantley tomorrow evening at 8 o'clock for On the Mark. Join Keith Scarborough on Thursday evening at 8 o'clock for Government at Work, right here on the Eastern Caribbean's Powerhouse, a place where you can spend all of your evenings. Thank you all again for joining us. Your voice in the community, thought that get results. You all have a wonderful evening.
Views and opinions expressed on the preceding program are solely those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views of the Nevis Broadcasting Company Limited or its advertiser.
Hey, builders, homeowners, contractors,